All right, so everyone's been asking about that Brady Bunch reboot that was supposed to happen and why it never did. Well, we did a deep dive into it. We've got a whole stack of articles here from Entertainment Weekly, USA Today, The Wrap, People Magazine, even the Daily Beast. It's pretty wild what we found. Let me tell you, there's some serious drama, like behind the scenes, political clashes, accusations of cancel culture, the whole nine yards. And get this, Cindy Brady, the little one, the one with the lisp, well, it turns out she's at the center of it all.
Yeah, it's interesting. It seems like a simple sitcom revival, right?
Yeah.
But this whole thing really blew up and became this huge debate about personal beliefs and what role they play in Hollywood and the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
I mean, can you really separate the two anymore?
Yeah, and I think that's what makes this so fascinating, right? It's the Brady Bunch. Everyone remembers that wholesome image. But this whole situation, it really throws a wrench into that nostalgia.
Yeah, it does. It totally does. After a very Brady renovation did so well on HGTV back in 2019, there was so much excitement for a reboot. CBS Studios seemed pretty into the idea, and Susan Olsen, who played Cindy, was ready to jump back into the role.
Yeah.
But she had this idea, right? She wanted Cindy to be like this libertarian podcaster, kind of like herself in real life.
Wait, hold on. Cindy Brady, the youngest one, with the lisp and the pigtails. She's like a hardcore right-winger now. That's not what I pictured at all.
It's definitely a big change from the sweet little girl everyone remembers from the original show.
Yeah.
She even imagined the other Brady kids, with their own political leanings, like Greg as a Reagan Republican and John as a total liberal. It sounds like she wanted to do what Roseanne did with their reboot, using those different viewpoints to make some funny but maybe controversial moments.
So basically, she wanted to bring all the political fighting that happens in the real world right into the Brady household. I mean, on the one hand, that could have been interesting, maybe even funny in a provocative kind of way. But you got to wonder if it wouldn't have alienated a bunch of viewers, right?
That's a big question, isn't it? And it's one that CBS was definitely grappling with as they started to learn more about Olsen's own personal views. Because, she hasn't exactly been quiet about it. She's very vocal about supporting Donald Trump, and she's skeptical of COVID-19 vaccines, and she really opposes transgender surgery for children.
Wow. Okay. So we're not talking about, like, some polite disagreement here. These are some pretty serious hot-button issues, especially these days.
Exactly. And Olsen's been completely unwavering in her stance on these issues. She even went so far as to say that children who undergo transgender surgery are doing irreparable damage to their own body. That's a really strong statement. And it put her directly at odds with a lot of Hollywood, which tends to be, more progressive.
So at this point, CBS is probably starting to sweat a little bit, right? They're thinking about all the fans, all the advertisers, and the potential backlash they could face.
I'd say so. And then on top of all that, there's also the baggage of that whole incident with Olsen and LA Talk Radio back in 2016.
Oh, right. That whole thing where she used those homophobic slurs. Didn't that start with a big fight with a guest on the air?
It did. She got into this heated argument with Leon Accord-Whiting, and things escalated after the show. Olsen sent him a private message, and it was full of homophobic slurs. LA Talk Radio condemned it immediately, and they fired her. I mean, who can blame them?
Yeah, it's not a good look. You can definitely see why CBS would be worried about that. So what did they do? Did they just drop Olsen right away?
Actually, their first move was kind of surprising. They offered Olsen a political correctness course. It seems like they were trying to find some middle ground, maybe hoping they could keep her involved, but, tone things down a little bit.
Wow, that's kind of ironic, right? Cindy Brady being sent to sensitivity training?
I know. It sounds a little ridiculous. But I think it shows how studios are really struggling to handle this new world where an actor's personal beliefs can have such a huge impact on, casting decisions.
So what happened? Did Olsen agree to take this course? Did CBS manage to smooth things over?
Well, it's not that simple. While CBS was trying to figure things out, they decided to dig a little deeper into Olsen's online history. And let me tell you, they hit a gold mine, or maybe a landmine. They found a ton of old comments and activity that made them even more nervous.
Hold on, are you telling me they put together a dossier on Cindy Brady?
Not on Cindy Brady exactly, but on Susan Olsen. It was a 50-page document with all her online activity, past statements, all that stuff. I guess you could say they were doing their homework, but maybe they were also looking for a reason to drop her.
Either way, it doesn't sound like it went well for Olsen. What did she do? Did she try to defend herself?
Oh, Olsen did not back down. She actually called this whole collection of comments her greatest hits. She was proud of them. She said she stood by every single one. It seems like she was determined to control her own narrative, even if it meant losing this opportunity.
Wow, so it was a standoff. Olsen was sticking to her guns, and CBS was getting more and more worried about the fallout. What happened next?
Well, things really came to a head in one final meeting. Olsen called it an inquisition. CBS was grilling her about all her stances on various issues. It was basically a trial for her beliefs.
Okay, so we've got Cindy Brady, a.k.a. Susan Olsen, digging her heels in, and a nervous CBS holding this giant document of her most controversial moments. What happens next?
You know, it's really fascinating how this whole thing has blown up and become such a divisive issue. As soon as the news broke about the reboot being canceled, people started picking sides. It's like everyone's got an opinion about whether CBS was right or if this was just cancel culture gone wild.
It's definitely become this Rorschach test. You know, how people see this situation says a lot about what they think about personal beliefs and how they should or shouldn't play a role in someone's job, especially in Hollywood.
Right. You got some people saying Olsen's personal views shouldn't even matter. They think she should be able to play Cindy Brady no matter what. But then you have others who think CBS had every right to cut ties with her. They say her views could alienate a huge chunk of their audience.
It seems like no matter what they did, CBS was going to end up in hot water.
Yeah, it was a lose-lose situation. If they kept Olsen on, they risked a boycott from viewers and maybe even advertisers. But if they dropped her, they get accused of censorship and caving to the cancel culture mob. It's a tough spot to be in.
It really exposes how divided we are as a society. It's like we're all just looking for reasons to fight with each other.
It's true. And it's sad, because this case could have been a chance for some real dialogue and understanding, but instead it just became another battle in the culture wars.
So let's break down the arguments a bit. What are people saying in support of CBS's decision?
Well, a lot of people are saying that CBS has the right to decide who they want to work with, right? They're a private company. They have an image to maintain, and they have to answer to their shareholders. Having someone like Olsen, who's so controversial, could really hurt their brand and their profits. It just makes sense from a business perspective.
Yeah, I mean, no company wants to invite that kind of negative attention. Especially when you're dealing with a family-friendly brand like the Brady Bunch, you don't want to alienate your core audience.
Exactly. And some people are saying it goes beyond just the money. They're saying that by casting Olsen, CBS would be sending a message that they support her views. Even if the show itself didn't get into politics, just having her there would be seen as an endorsement.
So it's about more than just what's in the script. It's about the message that casting her would send.
Right. And in this case, it's not even just about her past comments, but also about how she refused to back down. She didn't apologize for the homophobic slurs or anything. Some people see that as her standing up for what she believes in, but others see it as her refusing to take responsibility for the things she said. It's tricky.
It really raises this question of, can you ever separate the art from the artist? Especially nowadays with social media and everything, everyone's personal life is on display.
It's almost impossible to separate the two anymore. Everything's connected, and people are way more aware of the views and actions of the celebrities they support. There's no hiding anymore.
Okay, so we've heard from the side that agrees with CBS. But what about the people who think this was a case of cancel culture gone too far? What are their arguments?
Well, they're saying that Olsen was basically punished for her political beliefs, even though those beliefs had nothing to do with her ability to play Cindy Brady. They think it's a dangerous precedent that actors and other artists could be blacklisted just for having the wrong opinions. It's a scary thought.
It's like this chilling effect on free speech, right? People are afraid to speak their minds because they might lose their jobs.
Exactly. They worry that everyone will have to conform to a certain set of beliefs if they want to succeed. And, some people say it goes against the whole spirit of the Brady Bunch, which is all about finding common ground and accepting people, even when you don't agree with them.
That's a really interesting point. Maybe Olsen saw this reboot as a way to show how a family can deal with political differences in a loving way. It's a shame we'll never get to see what her vision for the show would have been.
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity. And instead, it just becomes another example of how polarized everything is these days. People would rather fight than find common ground.
It's like the Brady Bunch itself became a battleground for these larger cultural wars, You've got CBS representing this more progressive viewpoint focused on things like inclusivity and social justice. And then you have Olsen representing this more conservative viewpoint, emphasizing individual liberty and traditional values. And instead of finding a way to coexist, they clashed, and something that could have been really special was destroyed.
Yeah, it's a bummer for sure. And it really makes you think about how we treat people who disagree with us. Do we always have to pick sides and dig in our heels? Or is there a way to have productive conversations, even when it's hard?
It's a big question, and social media definitely doesn't make it any easier. It feels like everyone's just looking for a reason to get outraged.
Social media has made it so much harder to find common ground. But I still think it's possible. We need to be willing to listen to each other and try to understand where the other person is coming from.
So where does this leave the Brady Bunch? Can it ever go back to being that wholesome family show, or will it always be tied to this controversy?
It's hard to say. Nostalgia is powerful, and a lot of people still love the original show. But this whole thing has definitely left a mark. It'll be interesting to see if anyone tries to bring it back again, and if they do, how they'll handle the legacy of this situation.
It reminds us that even our favorite shows and characters can't escape the messiness of the real world. And it makes you wonder, what does this mean for the future of entertainment? Will studios be even more cautious about working with actors who have controversial views?
It's a cautionary tale for everyone, really. For actors, it shows how important it is to think about your online presence and how your words can come back to haunt you. And for studios, it's a reminder that they need to be careful about who they align themselves with.
It's like this constant balancing act. You have the right to say what you believe, but you also have to accept that there might be consequences for those beliefs.
Absolutely. And for studios, it's a question of risk. Do you risk alienating some viewers by working with someone who's controversial? Or do you risk being accused of censorship by dropping them? There are no easy answers.
So the Cindy Brady story isn't really about right or wrong. It's about trying to navigate this new world where the lines between our personal and professional lives are blurred.
That's a great way to put it. And as our world keeps getting more interconnected and digital, these issues are only going to become more complicated.
We've covered a lot today, and it's clear that there's still a lot to unpack. I'm curious to explore the aftermath of this controversy and what it might mean for the future.
Me too. This whole thing started as a story about a sitcom reboot, but it's turned into a much bigger conversation about free speech, cancel culture, corporate responsibility, and what entertainment even means in this crazy, polarized world. It's been quite a journey.
It's kind of crazy, right? This whole thing started with a sitcom reboot, and it turned into this huge debate about, well, everything. Free speech, corporate responsibility, how divided we are as a country.
It's wild. You wouldn't think the Brady Bunch, of all things, would be at the center of these big cultural and political battles. Makes you wonder if anything is safe from it anymore.
So now that we've had some time to process all this, what's been the fallout from the reboot getting canceled? What are people saying?
Oh, the media's been having a field day with this one.
Hmm.
Some outlets are praising CBS,
Yeah.
saying they did the right thing by distancing themselves from Olsen's views. They say companies have a responsibility to, live up to their values and not promote ideas that could hurt people.
Makes sense. But I bet not everyone sees it that way, huh?
Oh, definitely not. There's another side that's calling this a perfect example of cancel culture gone too far. They think Olsen was basically blacklisted just for speaking her mind, even if her opinions were unpopular. And they're worried that this could make other people, especially creative types, afraid to speak up.
So like a chilling effect on free speech, people are going to self-censor because they don't want to lose their jobs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's this big debate about where we draw the line. When do personal beliefs become a problem in a professional setting? It's tricky, especially in Hollywood.
And it all plays into that whole woke thing, right? Olsen even said she didn't want the reboot to be a woke Brady Bunch. I wonder what she even meant by that.
Woke is such a loaded term these days. It means different things to different people. But in this case, I think she was probably using it to criticize what she sees as this overly sensitive, politically correct culture where certain opinions are just off limits.
So to her, woke equals censorship. Like it's a threat to her freedom to say what she wants, even if it might offend people.
Yeah, that seems to be her argument. But it shows how hard it is to even talk about these issues. Because while she sees it as defending her free speech, other people might see her views as harmful and insensitive. How do you find common ground when you're starting from such different places?
It's a question we all face, not just in Hollywood, it's everywhere. So do you think this whole thing, this Cindy Brady situation, could have a lasting impact on the entertainment industry?
I think it's definitely a wake-up call. It shows how important it is for public figures to be careful about what they say online, because it can come back to bite them. And for studios, it highlights the risks of working with people who have strong, controversial opinions. It might not be worth the headache.
It makes me wonder what's going to happen to the Brady Bunch now. Can it ever be that wholesome family show again, or will it always have this dark cloud hanging over it?
That's tough to say. I mean, nostalgia is a powerful thing. People still love the original show. But this whole controversy has definitely changed things. I don't know if it can ever fully go back to what it was.
It's like this whole thing perfectly captures where we are as a society, you
Yeah.
know? We're also nostalgic for the simpler past, but we can't ignore the reality of the world we live in now. Things have changed, and the Brady Bunch, whether we like it or not, is part of that change.
You hit the nail on the head. Even our favorite shows and characters can't escape the complexities of the world we live in. It's a good reminder to keep learning, keep asking questions, and try to understand each other, even when it's hard.
Well said. This has been a fascinating deep dive, and I bet our listeners have a lot to think about. Thanks for joining us as we try to make sense of it all.
Absolutely. And until next time, keep those conversations going. We'll see you all soon.